there's ways to make money short-term in real estate, but it takes a long-term perspective if you want to build wealth in real estate. Welcome, income hackers. This is your host, Ryan G. Wright. This podcast is for individuals and families who are interested in fast-tracking their financial success. You'll hear experts discussing topics like generating a residual cash flow, building wealth through real estate, financial literacy, creating a family legacy, and overcoming your fears. If you get value out of this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's a big help to me. I really like this idea of you can start real estate at any age. Yes. I was telling you just the other day on Sunday, somebody was asking me, man, I'm like 42 and I should have gotten this real estate game earlier. And the question they had for me, and I knew I was going to be meeting with you, so I want you to answer this is it too late for me to get started at this age of 42 or call it 50? And if I was going to get started, how would I do it?
Right.
What would you say to them?
Well, first off, I started at 60 roughly. And so 40 is nothing, man. You got 20 years on me. That's great. And can you? Yes, you can. And there are a lot of different ways to do it. And a lot depends on your situation. Obviously, some people are going to be in a better position than others, but you could start with 5,000. You could, they were basic. You could go into a property. You can buy a property. Depends on what you want to do. If you have something you can sell, and you could, let's say, for example, buy a duplex or a fourplex. You can move into that property and live in one of the units, okay, and get an FHA loan. Okay, so only 3.5% down. Okay, and while you're there, you can fix up the property. You can do some other things. Okay, but over time, what you're doing is your tenants are paying your mortgage, so you don't even have a mortgage, so you don't have any expenses. And I think the requirement for an FHA loan is you have to be there at least a year, and then you could move out, okay, borrow against that property, do the exact same thing, buy another fourplex, or maybe go for a 6 or a 10, unit, and you could go and live in the units, and you just keep doing this.
I'm always amazed with immigrants. We actually have several that are customers or their second generation. I'm just always amazed how innovative they are. And I'm also amazed how hardworking they are. It's like, hey, I'm going to figure this out. There's a high level of commitment. There's a high level of gratitude for knowing that they won the lottery, just being able to be in the United States.
Yes.
And so they're like, hey, I'm super grateful and I'm super innovative and I'm super hardworking. And somehow that combination of the gratitude, the innovation, and the hard work almost always pays off. And I think it's partially a mindset, but let's talk a little bit about you've talked about some turnkey stuff, which I really like. I do this podcast for my young boys, my 8-year-old and 9-year-old boys. Explain to our listeners, if they don't know already, what a turnkey is. Mm-hmm. And also we're going to relay or parlay on that of this idea of if I'm a control freak, what would you say to me about doing a turnkey investment? So let's start with what is a turnkey?
Sure. Well, a turnkey property is a property that has already been purchased by a company, okay, that has rehabbed it and has got it rent ready, but then they generally go to the next step of actually putting renters in there. So they've got people on leases that are already in the property. And so when you buy this property, all you're going to have to do at this point. Oh, and they have also a property manager that runs the property. Okay, so you really don't have to do anything. This is the concept. Okay, my thoughts on turnkey have changed over the years, but I can explain that if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
But the concept is amazing, and that's why I went for it. And I found this company, and I went there and I bought 3 properties from this one company, just boom, in cash, paid for these properties, and had instant cash flow the next month. So that was really good. And so the concept is really good. Now, what you do is you do pay a little bit more for the property, or you're paying market. Hopefully you're not paying more than market, but some will actually charge you more than market
Mm.
because they've rehabbed it. They put all the money into it to rehab it, put in new appliances and do all the other stuff. And so the idea is that you're coming in for the cash flow. Yeah, hopefully it'll appreciate over time, but it's not the same as like we were talking about the bird, technique, which, you go in, you find something under market value, and you do the rehab, you do all that stuff to bring it up. So it's very popular. In fact, I tapped into a company that was based out of Singapore. Okay. Why? I have
Wow.
no idea. I just started getting their emails, and most of their investors are people in Asia. And so, there'll be people out of China or, wherever, the Philippines, that are buying properties in America, and that they want to do this. And so they have a huge funnel of, just of business that goes through this place. And so I thought, well, they'd be a good one to deal with. And anyway, so that was, that's why I went into turnkey. It was one, I didn't have the knowledge or the time. I wasn't going to go over there with my tool belt on, and I'm living in Port-au-Prince. I wasn't going to try to do rehabs myself. So I really thought that this was a good idea.
One of the things I really want to point out with Bill's story is he hasn't been doing real estate for 100 years, right? You just got into this, 10 years ago, 8 years ago?
Not even that. Yeah, 2014, I bought my first 3 rentals.
Okay, so 5 years, you've got somebody that hasn't done any real estate, buys his first one, learns a lot from that, starts with a strategy. That strategy had some successes and some failure, or some disappointments, I should say. Failure is only when you quit trying. So some frustrations and some successes. From there, learned, changed course, reinvested, learned, changed course, reinvested, learned, changed course, reinvested. And in the same process, he was changing his mental state of saying, well, what is really good debt and what is bad debt? I've always said this. I never wanted credit. I didn't want that. And those are decisions you have to make on your own. But as you do those things, you start reevaluating and say, well, why do I have this mindset? And is that mindset serving me, or is it not serving me? And is it serving me to accomplish the goals that I want to? And we're not saying to go be irresponsible by any stretch of the imagination, but is it serving me? Why do I have this belief system? Let me rethink through this. And then from there, parlaying to being, this is 5 years of investing, and look what you've got. So the big thing I want to point out to our income hacker is it's really possible, and it's really possible in a short period of time. And Bill is a perfect example of that, of what can be done. So any thoughts on that, Bill?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that real estate investing is that I've learned about. I kind of came into it as a solo guy, It is not a solo. It is not a solo game by any means. This is a team sport here, and you need a good team around you. You need people that are there, that care about you, but have the expertise in the areas that you don't. You got to work with people, and that's really the key thing, I believe. And so, a lot of people say real estate, it's all about location, location, location. I say it's relationships, relationships. And it's relationships with your tenants, it's relationships with your banker, it's relationships with other investors, with your, the people that are investing. If you're a syndicator, there's so many different people that are so critical to what you do. So that to me is important, but it's also, it's a long-term play too. And it's easy to get discouraged early on. It really is. And, I spent a lot of my time, just sometimes just talking to listeners and people that, where I'm just sharing some of my things so that they can see their thing isn't so bad, because really it's a long-term play, and you gotta have staying power. You gotta stick with it.
Write that down. I think these are words of wisdom you should be writing down. It's not a solo sport. You got to have team players. You can't get discouraged. It's got long-term prospects. I mean, there's ways to make money short-term in real estate, but it takes a long-term perspective if you want to build wealth in real estate. I see a lot of people that have a day job and say, man, I'm just going to start flipping some homes, which is fantastic. But then what they realize is they're trading one job for another job, because the idea of flipping properties, now maybe you're getting paid more to do that, which is great, but then are you spending more money, because your lifestyle increases? Then you're not saving anything. You're really not creating wealth. So the idea is, how can I actually create wealth, and how can I have that long-term perspective? If you got value out of our discussion today, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's a big help to me. Also, please share with a friend. Nothing is more valuable than creating financial friends who are like-minded. You can do that by inviting them to listen to the Income Hacker podcast. Bye for now, and make it a very profitable day.